Hello, welcome. Welcome to our first day and our breakout here for UEMA. We appreciate you coming and attending today. I would imagine that if you came with this particular topic in mind, that you all have questions regarding post-secondary education, particularly when it comes to the field of emergency management. And my name is Tal Ehlers. I am the emergency manager for Uintah County, and we have an illustrious panel up here with us today of our friends and colleagues throughout the state of Utah. And I am going to go ahead and let each one of them introduce themselves briefly, where they're from, their job title, the level of education they have so far achieved, and the degree that they have with that and their field of study, and a little bit about their background and where they came. And then we're going to go through some of these different questions. I have 10 different questions. Some of these questions may be the very questions that you are asking regarding furthering your education in this field, but if we go through some of these questions here, and if you have a question, please raise your hand, because we want to field your questions. We want to take the questions that you're pondering or that are keeping you awake at night, maybe to help you find a resolution or an idea about your particular circumstance and where you're going in this field with education. So we'll start with Cody, and there's 2 mics there on the table, and we'll start with Cody Barton from Sevier County and let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Does it work? Oh, awesome. Thanks, Tal. Like you said, my name is Cody Barton. I'm the emergency manager currently in Sevier County. By way of introduction, I live in Richfield. I've been with the Sevier County Sheriff's Office for 10 years now. I'm also on the Richfield City Fire Department, and then I run the hazmat program in Sevier County, and then also the Region 3 hazardous response in that area. I recently finished up my associate's degree through Barton Community College in Kansas online. That was kind of I was looking for a school, and I went to the FEMA website and said, do they have any recommendations? And there was a list of 100, and I saw Barton, and I'm like, that's my last name, that's where I'm going to go. That's how I picked that one. I got my associate's degree, and then currently I'm attending Grand Canyon University working towards my bachelor's in emergency management.
I'm Chris Blinzinger. I'm the emergency manager for Provo City in Utah County. I have a master's degree in crisis and emergency management and a bachelor's degree in emergency services administration.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Karen Blackwood, director of the Intermountain Center for Disaster Preparedness. I'm here because I am currently finishing a PhD in fire and emergency management administration.
You've got a lot more than that here.
What else? Oh, I also have 3 graduate degrees, master's level degrees in Homeland Security, Public Administration, and Emergency Management.
See, we brought Karen in for this specific reason. She's like the big gun. She's the only one crazy enough to stay in school and keep advancing the education. So, no, thank you very much.
Yeah, one wasn't enough for Karen. My name's Julianne Ehlers. I'm the Healthcare Coalition Coordinator for the Uintah Basin for the Utah Department of Health. I'm also an adjunct instructor for the Center for Domestic Preparedness in Anniston, Alabama. I have a bachelor's in Emergency Services Administration and a master's in Emergency Management, Homeland Security.
I'm Aaron Nelson. I'm a captain with Unified Fire Authority. I'm the deputy emergency manager for Salt Lake County. I've been in emergency management for 4 years now. I've got a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Utah, a master of public administration from the University of Utah, and a master of arts in homeland defense and security from the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School.
My name's Jeff Mulcahy. I'm the Sandy City Emergency Manager, and obviously I'm the lazy one in the group. I only have a bachelor's degree in emergency and disaster management.
No, not only. I mean, that's a big accomplishment to go through and get that. So, all right. Well, thank you for your introduction and for going through that. Let me ask you this: of the highest degree that you have, how many of you obtained it within the last, say, 5 to 10 years? All right. And other than Cody, I'm going to pick on the rest of you because you're all about my same age. We're over 21, right? I mean, we were. I know. See, and so but not you. You're 29 forever, I promise. So, and so, you know, there's a lot of folks that they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, considering, do I want to continue on with school? Do I want to keep going? And so I'm going to go ahead and ask these questions that I've written here. And if you want to hear the answer from a particular person based upon their discipline, based upon their job title, their field, please go ahead and raise your hand, and we can go ahead and have them address the specific question. In the meantime, I'll let the panel kind of decide who wants to take these questions. Very first, in a field where certifications and training are requirements, how is the addition of a degree going to change the emergency management landscape? We know that there's certifications, we know there's training, and we know there's education. They are not the same. And for years, a lot of people got into this particular field based on their certification, based on their training, or the fact that they were merely willing to wear the hat. And those days are passing, and so now we look at, you know, why is education becoming such a critical component, and why is that important in this changing field? So, anyone at all, pick one. Chris has got the mic.
Well, the addition of a degree, I think that the career field of emergency management is far beyond a qualification merely being a retired first responder. It is far beyond that because it has become a science. And emergency management is a profession. It's not a second career. It's a profession. It's a legitimate profession. And I think that's where degrees and education are so important. Now, education is not the only important part of that. The relationships, the ability to work with folks, and even though you may have attained the highest degree you think you want or that you need, that's not a one and done. It's this lifelong learning, folks. This is an evolving career where the degree is not going to be the end-all be-all of all you ever need to know. It goes far beyond that as this career field evolves.
I concur. Does that work? Actually, degree programs help to establish professions, just like lawyers, doctors, accountants, you name it. All of those that can say it's a true profession are because they're founded in, there's a foundational body of knowledge which guides training, education, just the efforts and concepts within that field. So as people pursue degree programs and enter the working environment, it helps to create a profession. Now, what does that do? Emergency management as a profession, well, it does give you credibility and legitimacy, but it's also a personal benefit as far as higher salaries. The more we strive towards a true profession, the more emergency managers will see the benefits of things like lawyers, accountants, and one of those specifically is salary. Yes? You know what, I actually,
Can I answer
I was
that?
going to say, I read an article, but I cannot for the life of me come up with the amount.
Well, and I can't give you a dollar amount because it so much depends on the field. If you're working for a government entity versus a private entity. But there's a lot of job opportunities out there now that are being restricted to those with a degree in the field. So as the profession becomes more legitimized, one of those words, yes. It becomes more clear at a body of knowledge, like Karen was saying, on what the potential applicants need to have. And a lot of those jobs are requiring a degree in the field of emergency management. Cody, you had?
Well, just to add to that, pretty much she said what I was going to say, but to add to that, to attach the dollar amount to that, like you're talking about, those positions that are starting to require the degrees typically are going to be higher paying positions. And so that's where, I guess if you wanted to attach that, I mean, I got a degree, I'm working on another degree, I work for a government agency, I'm not getting anything out of it as far as monetary goes right now. We're working towards that, but the opportunities that I could have beyond where I'm at right now will increase
with a degree, simply because of the requirements that a lot of people are putting on those job descriptions.
All right, don't raise your hand if your boss is here. But how many of you have gone online, you've gone to Monster, you've gone to Indeed, you've gone to some of these different websites and you've looked at the jobs? And how many of these jobs are requesting or requiring a degree? Not just in the state of Utah, but across the country. And I'm seeing at a minimum, most of these jobs are recommending that the applicant have at least an associate's degree. More often than not, I'm seeing a bachelor's is required and then preference given to anybody with a graduate degree. And that is very, very different than it was a few years ago. You got to look, after 9/11, there were, I think now we're over 300 colleges and universities across the country that offer some kind of a program in emergency management. Here in the state of Utah, you've got Salt Lake Community College, you've got Utah Valley University, and yesterday I just received an email from Utah Valley University stating that they're opening up a Master's of Public Service. Was that the title? Masters of Public Service from Utah Public Administration. So that's even happening locally. So we do see it becoming more of a not just a recommendation, but a requirement for employers around the country. And what Cody was talking about leads us into our second question. And why at this stage of your career did you go to school for an emergency management degree or a related degree? And actually, I want to pick on Jeff if I can, and have you go ahead and share your answer to that.
Is that because I'm probably the oldest one at the table, or?
Yes.
Well, I recently retired from the Air Force after 32 years. And I knew that I was coming to the end of the road there, and I needed to do something for a living after that. I'd been going to school since I joined the Air Force back in 1984. So 29 years I went to school. A long road. Finally, towards the end, I decided I need to get serious about this and started looking at degree programs. While I was in the Air Force, I was an airborne linguist. We deployed a lot overseas, looking for a program that I could work on wherever I was at. And one of the ones that came to mind that a lot of the folks in the military talked about was American Military University. And theirs is a strictly online program. And I knew I could do that anywhere I had an internet connection. So I jumped on that, and for 4 years, I sat at my kitchen table. I sat in a hotel room, just working on that degree. And it worked out for me. And once I wasn't ready to retire, but a position opened up in Sandy City, and I was able to drop my paperwork and retire from that and go into this job, which is much better than greeting people at Walmart. So I appreciated that.
And if I could put you on the spot,
Sure.
You had talked about, okay, I've got my undergraduate degree, now I'm considering a graduate. What would make you even consider it at this point? Why would you even want to move from an undergrad to a graduate degree?
I think, when I look at myself where I'm at in Sandy City, there's nowhere really for me to move up. I'm kind of my own boss, if you will. I mean, I do answer to people there in the city, but I'm a one-man shop, and so there's really nowhere for me to go unless I wanted to pursue like public administration, be a city manager or something to that effect. But I'm thinking more. I don't want to just stop. There's always room for growth. There's always could be opportunities out there. You just don't know until they come along. But to be in position for those things. While I was in the military, one of the big challenges I had for my younger troops, they have professional military education courses. And if you didn't have those completed and opportunities to promote came along and you weren't ready for them, then you were left behind and you didn't promote. And I would hate to be in that situation, not have something done. I won't say as simple as an additional degree, but something that I could have done in preparation for something that could come along later.
And then, Aaron, you have multiple graduate degrees. Share with us what, you did one, then you decided to do another one for what ultimate purpose?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of what inspired me to go back to school, when I got hired on the fire department, I was kind of a borderline junior, senior, and didn't finish, and got caught up in fire department things, taking a lot of training, taking every FEMA class and fire service class you can, that didn't really apply to anything. And got in kind of a bad motorcycle crash, and at the same time, I had a friend that had a career-ending injury. And I kind of thought all these fire service classes really aren't going to do anything for me without a degree, and I kind of wanted to have something to fall back on. So that's what scared me into going back to school, I guess. Luckily, I found a good program I liked, the political science program at the U, and finished up my last year pretty easily, and applied for the MPA program, got in. I actually turned in my last bachelor's degree paper on lunch at my first day of the MPA program. Ran upstairs and did that. Finished that in a year and a half, and I heard about the Naval Postgraduate School that had a free PhD program that I think about anybody in here is probably eligible for local emergency managers, firefighters, cops, public health. There's a big variety of people. I kind of applied to that because I didn't think I was going to get in, and then I could complain about it. And then imagine my surprise when I got the letter and a box of books on my door and said, congratulations, you start in a month, read these 10 books. But it was a great opportunity, and I loved it, and so jumped right into that program immediately following my MPA. It's a Master of the Arts in Security Studies, Homeland Defense and Security. If you're interested in the program, you can talk to me afterwards, but look up CHDS, the Center for Homeland Defense and Security, online, and they've got a pretty good website. And there's a little button where you can apply for the master's program there.
All right, thank you. And I'm sorry, did we have a hand?
Just going to ask, a couple people mentioned that they take a lot of certifications, whether it be the ones online, PDS, whatever. Do any of those, even if they're recommended, a school is recommended from FEMA, is there any of the schools that use those as credits?
So, like I said, when I was looking for where to start, I went to the FEMA website. They had their top 100, and yeah, I did choose Barton partly because that's what caught my eye. I called them, and as I discussed with them, their program was entirely online. It's an emergency management and homeland security associate's degree is what they called it. They took my Fire 1, Fire 2, and Wildland and applied it. They took my hazmat certification and applied it. They took most of my classes from my APS and my PDS, and they applied them. I got an associate's degree in 36 credits. I had done some generals before about 10 years ago, but they accepted most of them. But I wiped out probably 36 credits simply based on prior certifications.
So nothing particularly for APS, PDS, or any of the classes through EMI. And does anybody want to talk about EMI converting over to credits, or do you want me to take that real quick, since y'all are looking at me like you don't know where I'm going to go with this? Emergency Management Institute, there's Fredericksburg Community College, and they will, out of Maryland, and they will take, at 70, the last I checked, which was like 4 years ago, they will take $75 per credit. They will give you credit at Fredericksburg Community College. And so if you apply to and get accepted to Fredericksburg Community College and you take and pass one class, you can then pay for your EMI certificate courses to be transferred over to credits at that college. But then if you go to a different college, if you go to Jacksonville State, if you go to UVU, if you go wherever it is you go, you've got to make sure that university is going to take those credits from Fredericksburg Community College. And so it does start to become a little convoluted. So credits like hazmat, fire, EMS, a lot of colleges will take those credits and you can use them as your elective courses. But when it comes to your EMI credits, the only college that I'm aware of, unless somebody has fresher information than I do, is Fredericksburg Community College out of Maryland. Does that answer your question? Okay, and going back to the income, did anybody else want to say anything about income? It kind of also depends on the state. Savannah, can I pick on you quickly? We have Savannah here from Garland, Texas. She's one of our speakers for tomorrow. What is the average wage, say in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in emergency management, or what's a range, I should say?
For an actual emergency management coordinator, it is usually bachelor's required in the field. And depending on the size of the jurisdiction, Dallas-Fort Worth is a pretty large urban area.
And how many of those entities that are looking for emergency managers require at least a bachelor's degree?
All of them that I know of, especially in urban areas. Texas is pretty large in the rural county. It's usually like a fire chief who is there or a manager. There's usually not a degree requirement for those, but in the metropolitan area, all of them, I'm not familiar with any that do not require at least a bachelor's.
All right, thanks. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot and sharing some information from outside of the state. All right, going on to our next question. And this one we hear a lot, particularly from people that are in the state. They've graduated from one of the local colleges. I have a degree in emergency management or a related field, but I can't break in. How do I break in? How can I go ahead and get into the field of emergency management? I don't have any experience, but I'm sitting on this degree. How do I break in?
I actually, so my undergrad is in public relations and communication arts, and I got my MPA, which is Master's of Public Administration, and it was my first graduate degree. It specialized in national security affairs, and I happened to be in Meridian, Mississippi, which is a very small community, okay? They had grant funding to begin a regional response team, and I knew I wanted to work with them. Well, I become very, very familiar with the city administrator, and he got an email from me and the individual that they appointed as the director of this regional response team. I emailed them about every 2 days, sending them my resume and my degree information and telling them that I was interested. I had very little experience in emergency management prior to that, only as a volunteer. Okay, so they took a risk on me, but you have to be very persistent because you are your best advocate. The other thing is there's opportunities to volunteer. If you can do an internship, that is fantastic. The other thing, or something like a practicum, and if you can't do any of those, and I have people reach out to me at the ICP very often, do a mentorship. Contact somebody who is in a position that could provide you with a recommendation, that kind of thing, and then tell them, just let me do a mentorship with you. Give me a project to work on in which I could follow through, at the end of which I can put it on my resume that I've developed a plan or I've created this campaign or something. Now, you won't be paid for it, but you will get experience, you will get exposure, and in the end, you can walk away with a recommendation. But honestly, it takes a lot of putting yourself out there and finding ways to be willing to do anything. Go to the Red Cross Salvation Army. They're always looking for volunteers. That's a great way to gain experience.
I kind of took a little different approach. While I was still in the military, I was shopping around. I was working on my degree, and I thought, what in the world, how am I going to get this position? Most of the positions that are out there are one-man shops, especially working for a city and whatnot. I live in Sandy City, so I found out about this thing called Citizen Corps. I showed up and I met Ken Crowdy. Ken, are you still in the back there? Yeah. And I met Ken Crowdy. I walked out, introduced myself. I don't know if you remember this or not. And so we met several times, and then all of a sudden Ken was gone. I don't know what happened to him. And another guy was in the position. So I thought, well, I've got to start all over again. So I introduced myself to Jared Smith, who now works over in West Jordan. And as I volunteered my time in my military job, I worked 4/10s, so Monday through Thursday. So I had Fridays off, so I volunteered my time to come in and help him out. One-man shop. Everybody needs help, right? All of a sudden, after a few weeks, Jared's like, Jeff, we can't do this anymore. And I'm like, did I do something wrong? What's going on? He said, no, I'm leaving. I've got another job. This is the time for you to put in your paperwork and get this job. And it worked out for me in that way. But like I said, go out there, meet people, volunteer for different things. You got to really put yourself out there.
That's probably the number one question I see on LinkedIn is someone who says, I have the degree, I can't get a job, I can't get hired. And when you're looking for the degree, that's not the only requirement. I have 2 daughters that are nurses, and they get hired, and they have a 3-month intensive training process before they are turned loose on their own. And as Jeff mentioned, one-man shop. I think that we could all represent a one-man shop. And how do you turn someone brand new out of school into that one-man shop and have them be effective and proficient? And that's why what Karen's talking about is that experience is so important. There was an article in the Journal of Emergency Management about experiential learning in higher education. And the example was that these emergency management programs are utilizing a mutually beneficial project between a jurisdiction, local jurisdiction, and the students, and have them work together. And they described a functional exercise that was a regular process that they did every semester with the group, but it was introducing folks into exercise development, conducting after-action reports, and putting out, following an HC process. And that's just one example of a way to incorporate that learning and experience with the learning institution. That's difficult to do with the online programs, but I think that if we can get our schools who are teaching emergency management programs with the butt in the seat classes to help facilitate those kind of interactions between students and those local jurisdictions, or whatever jurisdiction it is related to the degree, it's going to be highly beneficial that you come out of school with a body of knowledge that you would not have gained otherwise.
We've had several people approach Salt Lake County Emergency Management. We're a little bigger than one person, but we still have plenty of work to do. And several of them have put 3 to 6 months in as an intern, unpaid, and several of them have gotten at least part-time, if not full-time jobs down the road after finishing a project with us and getting a letter of recommendation and meeting other people in the valley and around the state. So it can work.
All right, and now this is a really good segue into some of the other things we're talking about with the colleges, because you talk about online, you talk about butts in the seat classes and things of that nature. So in line here, how did you choose your college or university? We're all busy, we all have jobs and families and civic obligations and different things that we do, and so you start thinking about how in the world am I going to find the time, how am I going to go back to school, and which university is right for me. So we know that you chose it based on Barton. That was an easy match for you.
Well, that was part of it for my associate's degree. I mean, and that one, through Barton, the way their program is set up, it was on standard semesters, but they had 9-week classes. And so I did 18 credits per semester, but I did them in 3 9-week blocks. Well, yeah, the first 9-week block with 3 classes, and then the second 9-week block. And that was actually really huge for me because it worked. I was taking 3 classes at a time. It was a really heavy payload because I'm working full time. Currently I'm going to Grand Canyon, and what really attracted me to Grand Canyon, their classes are 7 weeks long. It's a 7-week course. It's equivalent to a full semester course in 7 weeks, but they only let you take one at a time. I still get the full 16 to 18 credits a semester, but I'm only taking 1 class at a time, 7 weeks, switch over. And for me, that's huge because I can still get it done in a timely manner, but I'm not killing myself time-wise on top of a full-time job and everything else I've got going on.
So I looked at it a little bit different. I would suggest that you look at what's convenient for you, but also dig into the reputation of the school. There are a lot of degree mills out there, especially unfortunately, in Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and the reason for that is because it was so new. It was such a new field, people could just start generating degrees, for-profit universities, all of them. Look at the reputations of the schools. What kind of programs did they have before then? What is the employment rate out of related degrees? Because I'm not saying that my the universities I attended were all fantastic. I would say there were some that were much better than others as far as what I was able to learn. And I was one of those that at one particular university, what I was doing in my job, I was able to submit for coursework, much like what Chris was saying. But look at the reputation of the schools, because getting a degree from ABC University, okay, from mom and pop university is not going to get you employed, because people look at where you got your degree from. It's not just that you have one, because they teach different types of curriculum. Some teach theory and concepts. The others teach FEMA training. They conduct more training than they do actual education. So I would really look at the reputations of the schools if you're interested.
Do you think that program that would cost a little bit more but for a well-known school would be more worth it than like a master's program that's cheaper but for not quite quality schools?
I personally, yes. Yes, I've been in school, I think, forever now, and I take great pride in certain places that I got my degrees from other places. I don't mention too much because in the end I was like, yeah, it was probably not my best choice. I would rather pay a little bit more, and there's so many opportunities out there in this field to get funding assistance to go to school. I personally believe it's worth it.
I'm going to be a little bit bold. I know it's shocking. I chose UVU for my undergrad degree, Emergency Services Administration, for the primary reason that it was online. I live in a rural community and I cannot travel to do butts in seat classes. I had to have it online. And at that point, I knew I wanted a degree in emergency management, and UVU had a program. So it was a good fit for me in that aspect. But the UVU Bachelor's Degree in Emergency Service Administration is very heavily fire-oriented. The instructors have great, terrific fire experience. The years that I was there, I did not find that they had a lot of professors that had experience in emergency management as its own field. I found that a much better situation when I did my master's through Arizona State University. Again, I needed an online course, but now I was looking for a master's that was going to apply to what I wanted to do a little bit better than your broad basic bachelor's degree. So look at who the professors are, look at what their experience is. It'll make a difference in the quality of your classes and in the quality of the instruction that you're receiving and whether or not you're actually able to apply that to your desired field.
Do you want to go first? Go ahead, Robin. Go. Here, I'll get Robin the mic. Here, let me see your mic.
So I'm the emergency manager at UVU, so I don't teach in the program, but I can give you a little bit of information about just to add on to what she said. So we have a new dean there who is an emergency manager. So that's nice, and you'll see some changes in that program as it goes along. Also, just sort of an FYI and a commercial, we're both working on having internships for emergency managers. So even though it's an online course, we still have a lot of local people, and they're very heavily developing internships with other entities, whether they are cities, private. So we want to be able to send students out to do emergency management internships. So just be aware of that and keep your eye on that.
And that's also something that UEMA is trying to work with in interfacing with UVU and Salt Lake Community College with the new website that we're going to be introducing that will have a place on the UEMA website where people can go. They can fill out an application based on UVU's requirements or Salt Lake Community College requirements for internship, and then we can coordinate that with different offices throughout the state, whether it's through local government or through health department, hopefully private sector as well. But that is something that's in the work to help to bring up the next generation of emergency managers here in the state of Utah. And then, Chris, you had a comment.
I think that if you're looking at going back to school and you already have a position, you can consider different options, and you need that flexibility because you can't exactly quit your job to go to school. And so I think that is definitely a consideration, but to vet them. I have been a benefactor of interns coming from UVU that I hope that I provide them a valuable experience, but I also look to them to provide me with some valuable expertise or some valuable help with projects I'm working on. So that's a great way to do it.
All right, so that brings us to our next question. How did you decide? Oh, did you have a comment, please?
Yeah, I was just about picking your school. Hey, look at how the program's run. My Master of Public Administration at the U was the executive program. Very comforting that it's all working professional. Everybody's in there as an adult. There's probably a couple kids in their 20s, a few people in their 60s, most people 30s, 40s, 50s. Everybody has a family. Everybody has a job. The school knows that. They work around it. It's not like your experience when you were a freshman in college 30 years ago or whatever. It's different, and it's pretty supportive. My program was every other Friday night and all day Saturday, every other week for a year and a half. Pretty doable. Yeah.
And something that you had talked about before, and I'll bring this up to anybody who wants to answer it, how did you select your degree level? You know, why did you go from an associate's to a bachelor's? Why are you considering a graduate degree? Why in the world did you go for multiple masters and then a PhD? And just share a little bit on where you felt that that met your career goals.
I don't mean to talk about all of these, but I am passionate about my career field. So, you chuckle. So as I was going through different degrees, I realized, okay, so I've learned this, but there's still so much that I don't know. And so I would start looking into something else, and I was like, that's going to get me to where I want to go. When I was working on my MP, I was like, okay, that was my first graduate degree. That's going to give me everything I want to know. Well, when I got done with it, I was like, that really didn't do it. So I started looking at others, and then I got my master's in emergency management. And I was like, okay, well, that's probably the one that really got me there. But then our wonderful government started using this term Homeland Security and started, lowering emergency management instead of focusing on those things that impact everybody. They were, really wanting to, find a bad guy. And there's no bad guy when it comes to a tornado and an earthquake. I spent 8 years running the Navy's emergency management program, and I used to have to tell the military members and the commanding officers, you can't drop a bomb on a tornado. Okay, so, but I saw that that was the direction it was going, so I got a master's that specialized in Homeland Security. Knowing all of that, you have to do a lot of research, okay? That's just the way it is. And now, I was reading these journal articles, and I thought, okay, these really smart people are writing really great information. I don't have a clue what they're saying. So how is this academic research that these very highly educated individuals, how is that going to help me? Because I've been operational until I took this job as the director of the ICDP. How is that going to help me? What can I implement? What is this saying to me? So I began looking at what a PhD really does, okay? And PhDs help build a body of knowledge. And I decided to go for that PhD because I wanted to do research, and I wanted to take other people's research and bring it to where it was applicable to practitioners. Okay, so that when somebody says, okay, the odds ratio, this is what it is, okay, what does that really mean? So taking all of this body of knowledge and making it to where people could actually apply it in the emergency management field, because there's a huge disconnect from academics, from research, to what people are actually able to apply in their daily jobs to improve emergency management across the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, was that too obvious? No, that last comment was perfect. That was an issue for me, so thanks for bringing that up. Jeff?
I don't know if I want to follow that. No, actually, for me, why I chose my degree level is I just wanted to be competitive to get a job. That was basically where I was at, just to get a job. And the question I want to ask those of you that have multiple master's degrees and working on PhDs, do you ever worry about becoming overqualified for a position?
No, because I'm willing to do anything. I mean, honestly, I've been, the very grunt planner that worked underneath everybody, and it was not just getting coffee. And while I may have all those degrees, you can ask anybody that works with me, I am not pompous, and I'm very humble about what it is that I do, because I am literally willing to do anything. It's not, you have to remove any pretense or pompousness when it comes to the field of emergency management, because many times we are one-man shows. You are doing everything. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes within the field. And I think as long as you're willing to do that, it doesn't matter how many masters or PhDs or anything else you have, as long as you're willing to do the job. Don't ever get too big for your britches, as my mama would always say.
Yeah, I'd probably rather be overqualified than underqualified for a lot of jobs. I think my reasons are a lot more selfish than yours, and a lot less altruistic, but it's just giving me options, I think, because I just wanted to have more options for more jobs, more opportunities, and things
Oh,
to choose
don't get me
from.
wrong, I have to make a paycheck, yes.
You sound like such a nice person, and I don't really have that in me, sorry. But it's from a selfish perspective, it seemed like the thing to do, to get more options, more opportunities, a broader network, and I think it's working. Even my job at the fire department, I wouldn't have had. I was picked for the emergency management job because of my degrees. I probably wouldn't have even put in for it, but they knew I had it and they wanted to use it. So it's been great for me. I'm glad it happened. Yeah.
All right, and the next question, I'll read the question and give you a second to think about it. Are there degrees other than emergency management degrees that'll benefit or support your emergency management career? And a couple of people I've spoken with recently, Brett Cross. Brett Cross brought up an excellent point in a conversation that he and I had a few months ago. He has a bachelor's degree from Utah Valley University in Emergency Services Administration. And he says, when I go after my graduate degree, I'm going to do something different. He said, I want to have some flexibility in my degrees so that I'm qualified to work in this field, but that perhaps maybe I could do a different task in a different organization. And I thought that was a great idea. Amy Cornell Titcomb, and she's at EMI this week, and she apologizes for not being able to make it here, but I was speaking with her a week or two ago, and she says, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go get another graduate degree. And I said, what are you going to get it in? And actually, if I'm not mistaken, she said intelligence. I thought, that's kind of cool. That sounds kind of exciting, kind of interesting. So what degrees, in addition to emergency management, will benefit us in this field?
So my specialty is healthcare. That's where I specialize in emergency management. And a field that would be helpful on top of emergency management is your public health administration. That certainly applies if you are following a medical path or a public health path in emergency program management.
I would say, to follow on, if you know, sometimes people who get into this field know they want to work in one specific sector. So healthcare, well, healthcare administration. Because if you understand the healthcare administration, you can better champion emergency management throughout the organizations. Public health administration, a friend of mine works for Visa. She's the emergency management manager for the Visa Corporation. Well, for somebody like her, something in business administration would help her. Again, it gives that overall knowledge of the broad sector. I would still say that, specialize in emergency management, because getting a MBA and then saying, oh, I want to be your emergency manager, that's probably not going to work without coursework in it. But look at that broad strategic level at whatever organization you want to work within. I have someone else, know of someone else who got a degree in geology, seismology? Something relating to the earth, okay. And then went on to get just another bachelor's in emergency management. And he said he was very passionate about earthquakes, lahars, landslides, all of those types of things. And he wanted to, he learned about those types of things in his geology program and went on to emergency management. He's now a great hazard mitigation specialist when it comes to emergency management or earthquakes. So there is always a way. 6 degrees of separation. I can link everything back to emergency management. So no matter what your degree is in or what you're pushing forward in your degree program, find out if your college has electives in emergency management. And just start looking at that within your main degree program. But everything can be related back to emergency management. Accounting even. Anybody want to be an accountant? I can show you how to link that back into emergency management and cost recovery.
So I've got my degree in business, but why would it make sense to go in and get a management degree with a bachelor's as opposed to getting a graduate degree?
Did everybody hear that?
Graduate versus an undergraduate? There's no difference. I don't see.
Once you've done a bachelor's, don't do it again. They're painful. You have to take music and PE and stuff that doesn't apply. Whatever.
And graduate
Yes.
degrees have credibility.
Right. But the advantage of your graduate degrees is every class you take applies to the field. So everything you do, yes, I didn't do interpretive dance. I should have, though. That would have been fun. But once you're done with your bachelor's, don't go back and do it again, is my opinion, just my opinion. Go on and find either a master's or a PhD program where everything you do applies.
Yeah, I think a good general graduate degree to get is the Master of Public Administration, if you're going to be in government work, or the nonprofit sector, which most of us are public or nonprofit in here. If you're going to work for business, an MBA is probably better. But I think the M is what matters, really. If my second master's degree wouldn't have been free, I probably wouldn't have done it, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't pay for the same level of degree twice. I would always bump up to the next, because it gives you more options, in my opinion.
Let me say again, I believe that even the degree is not a one and done. We have to commit to learning and continue to increase our knowledge and understanding. And training is different than education. You can do lots of training, but getting an education is different. So we continue with training or continue to expand our knowledge and understanding of the field that we are serving.
And I'll bring this, Chris, as long as you got the mic. How did you manage your time? What did UNLV require for you, positives and negatives?
UNLV, I was an emergency manager at the time that I started the UNLV program. I could fly down there on a Friday morning, early flight, and I flew home on a Sunday evening. I had to go down there twice a semester for 3 days of classes, so it was 6 days of classes per semester. I appreciated that face-to-face. There's things that you can learn with online, there's things that you can learn in a classroom, but the first day of class, Dr. Waugh, William Waugh said to our class, what you get out of this program is 100% determined by you. I'm not going to teach you anything. What you learn is going to come from you. And I think that you have to understand, if you're doing an online program, that does take some self-discipline, some commitment, very challenging. And because I was working, it worked great for me. I had some classroom components. I spent several hundred hours in the classroom with our cohort, and I spent 2 or 3 times that amount writing papers and posting my things online. So that's how that worked. Yes?
Do you recommend doing strictly online, or did you like doing a hybrid where you had an opportunity in? Yeah. Would you recommend doing strictly online master's programs where you don't have to go to campus? Or did you like that hybrid where you had the opportunity to meet your professors and to get that networking opportunity? What would be the best
I think
option?
that's very individual, and Karen mentioned this. Legitimizing your education, the institution that you're attending, that is the most important. But especially if you're a working professional, you have to find something that works. Aaron, his MPA program was worked because it was made for an executive program for folks on the evenings and weekends. And so there's benefits to that. I think you have to see what works for you, keeping in mind the legitimization of the education.
Absolutely agree. I would say, however, if you have an opportunity to go to a hybrid program, many of my programs were hybrids, and I benefited from butts in seats, actually sitting there and engaging with the other students. One particular university, while I couldn't go there because it was out of state, it was not online discussions. Okay, I have an opinion about that one. But it was web conferencing. They had this whole platform where you actually have to be in class. So if class starts at 7 p.m., it may be 6 p.m. my time because there was time change, but I had to be in front of my webcam and I could see the entire students, the classroom at the university, as well as those others who were like me that were videoing in. But there was still interaction. I was able to create relationships with the with the professors as well as the students. You know, if you're thinking about a PhD program, especially do not go solely online. You're going online, okay, and you're doing all of these classroom discussions, and that's it. How do you pick your committee members for your dissertation? Who's going to be your advisor? Those are very personal relationships that you cannot develop online. So it takes going to the university and interacting with them, getting to know them, finding out about their research interests and things which best suit you. So if anyone in here is actually crazy enough to go that far, look for some type of hybrid program and don't do that one online, solely online.
All right, thanks. Let's move on here. We're coming down towards the home stretch. How do you pay for it? Now, maybe we can all be like Aaron. We can all get something, get it for free, right, on the master's program. But there was a definite reason that you were able to qualify for that one for free. Do you want to explain that one a little bit?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
The question is, how did you find that you could pay for your program? What were options to you?
My first one, the MPA, my department has tuition reimbursement up to $3,000 a year. And so that covered a lot of it. If you time it right, you can make that money go a ways. But I also had to get some loans and some grants, and I'm still paying on that MPA. There is a program, I think it's the Perkins loan, that they'll forgive $1,000 a year for firefighters, cops, teachers, nurses. And I got that, and that worked pretty well. I had $5,000 that the federal government just wrote off on that deal. So that was pretty helpful, too.
Okay. And then Jeff, also, we were talking about your military background, GI Bill. Did that work for you?
GI Bill paid the whole thing. Well, I shouldn't say that. There were also, by way of the military, there are also federal tuition assistance programs that are available to military members. So I didn't pay anything. It was all through the government.
So when I hear about let's see, there's the public university and the military university, right? What are the names on those? And for military members, one of them is less expensive than the others?
They were both the same.
Were they the same?
Yeah.
Okay. And Cody?
I was able to get my associate's degree completely paid for just through a Pell Grant. I don't know, really can't really speak to the ins and outs of the really super details with the Pell Grant. I think it had something to do with I have a lot of kids, but I've got 4 kids. But I think that being able to take advantage of those programs really helped me out. Right now, that paid for my associates. Right now, the Pell Grant, and then I got a Stafford loan. But I'm also applying for. There's a lot of scholarships out there. There's list upon list upon list of scholarships that you can apply for, and depending on your circumstance and where you're at, I got a public safety scholarship, helped me out with 10% of my loan, different things that way. So that's how I'm currently paying for mine. Smaller agency, we don't have any tuition reimbursement. I wish we did. They said, oh, we wish we could help you out with that, but no. But that's how I'm working on mine.
Yeah, don't underestimate the value of having a face-to-face meeting and sitting down with the financial aid people at a university. That's their job, is to get people money. And you can search online for scholarships or whatever, but there's so much weird stuff out there that if your grandpa was a coal miner or some nonsense like that, there's $5,000 for you. And you would just never know about it. And there's a lot of money. And I got a little bit of that, too.
My grandpa's not a coal miner, so I didn't get any of the coal miner money. Pell Grant helped me with my bachelor's. I did get a little bit of scholarship, a little bit of grant. My master's was all on me. It just had to be worth it for what I wanted to do with my career. So you've got that. You have to be willing and upfront and know what you're getting into when you decide to do it.
There's also the Public Employee Loan Forgiveness Program, and if you work for a local government or nonprofit for 10 years, you can make an income. It's an income-driven payment that you pay on, and after 10 years, they will forgive the balance of the loan.
So for me, I never wanted to have any extra money for the remainder of my lifetime. And so I have funded my graduate degrees. The Montgomery J.I. Pill paid for my bachelor's, and then I have funded the rest. I'm beginning to think GoFundMe page might work for my student loans. At this point, I'm beginning to consider that one. But when you're looking for an emergency management job, one of your negotiations could be tuition assistance. You know, if that's something that you're wanting to work on, ask your organizations. They may not be able to help you. Other places, you can be part of your negotiations. I have been very beneficial to work for organizations that will at least reimburse like 50% or so, something up to a certain point. Can't hurt to ask, though.
All right, thank you. We have just a couple of minutes, and you know, we've had a myriad of questions and an assortment of answers from different perspectives in the business, and now I do want to turn it over to you for just a couple of minutes. What other questions would you like to have before we dismiss? Please, you know what, you get a mic. Very loud.
Hi, just so that you know, International Association of Emergency Managers, which I know you're all. There we go. There you go. The International Association of Emergency Managers, which I know you're all members of, has a scholarship program, and it's available every year. We give away thousands of dollars to students. This year, we're actually implementing something new, and it's for part-time students as well. So it's available. Go to IAEM. Sorry, yeah, so just William Hurtis. I'm an emergency manager from Utah, but in back after several years now. So, yeah, so just so you know, IAEM. It's a big one.
Okay, thank you. What other questions? Yes.
Sorry, another one on the funding. If you're willing to go out of country to study, there are several places that will do free tuition, master's and PhD, if you're interested in going out of country. If you're interested, come talk to me. I can get you a list.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right. We have a gift bag for each one of our panel members, and I'll go ahead and provide these to you as we close up. But thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for your experience and what you were willing to share with all of us. Let's give them a big hand for everything that they've done. And to finish it up with one final question, and we're not going to have time to go through this, but I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about this, and maybe you can catch them in the hall and ask them this question. Would you do it again, and what would you do differently? Because hindsight's great. You can always look back and say, well, maybe I would have selected a different degree. Maybe I would have selected a different university. Maybe I would have rather had more time with the butts in the seats than online. But you know, think about what you would have done differently, and then ask these questions. I get questions all the time from people. I'm thinking about this. What should I do? And it's not an easy decision, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of research. Why this school? Why this degree? Where am I in my career? Where do I want to work? Where do I want to go from here? How much do I want to make? Can I make this kind of income in this field with this degree? There's a lot of research to be done. Thank you so much for coming and attending our breakout session. We have a quick break here, and then we'll go into the next set of classes. Thank you very much.